What's up, everyone? Ryan Geddes here from IGN Xbox, here with my man Nate Ahern. We're here to talk about Resident Evil 5 and Gears of War 2. It's a grudge match.
Mainly why Gears of War 2 is a much better game than Resident Evil 5.
I'm interested to hear why you think that way. Let's start with gameplay. Talk about it.
Okay, gameplay. Gears of War 2 is a cover shooter that is a cover shooter. It does what it sets out to do. Resident Evil 5 sets out to be a survival horror game and winds up being some kind of mishmash. There's monsters, and then you're taking cover, and there's just action nonstop. It makes no sense whatsoever.
See, well, there's where I disagree, because Resident Evil 5 never set out to be a survival horror game. Just because it has roots in the survival horror genre, it doesn't mean that it's trying to be anything other than an action game, which is what the designers set out to do from the beginning, and they did a better job than Epic did with their action shooter.
So if Resident Evil 5 is an action game and a good action game, you're saying Resident Evil 5 is a better action game than Gears of War 2. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Why is that? Why? I mean, it doesn't have the cover mechanic. It doesn't have as intensive action. It has slow pace, stupid tank control fighting. Explain that to me. Why does that make sense for an action game?
I think precisely because of Resident Evil 5's tank controls, it makes it more intensive an experience, and it's a better co-op experience. There are more satisfying enemies to fight, the boss battles are better, and they even do better on-rail segments than Gears of War 2 tries to do with its stupid Reaver segment and Brumac segment. Those are just boring and dull, and they break the Gears of War 2 experience.
You just mentioned co-op. One thing that is completely killed in Resident Evil 5 when you play co-op are the graphics. It slows down like crazy. Even in single player, there's slowdown. I know you're going to say, there's texture pop-in Gears of War 2. Yes, there is texture pop-in. Which would you rather have? A stuttery game, a stuttery action game when it's supposed to be fast-paced, or one that textures take a while to load, but it runs smooth as silk?
I had a perfectly smooth experience with Resident Evil 5 when I was playing co-op. I played it a couple times co-op. I personally didn't have any problems. Maybe you just have a broken machine. I just think overall, graphically, Resident Evil 5 is a prettier game. The lighting is better, they make really good use of light and shadow, the outdoor environments are bright and pretty. That scene in the mining area where you have that sunset, it's really amazing. I even think they do water effects just as well as Unreal Engine 3 does. Details.
It's all in the details with graphics. Gears of War 2, the details on the character models, the environments, the enemies, everything, the niches on the armor, everything is so fleshed out.
Alright, let's talk about storyline for a second. Neither one of these games are exactly going to blow your mind in terms of story. True. But I feel like at least Resident Evil 5 said, hey, we're going to make a game that's like a B-movie, and they went all the way with it. They had a clear bad guy at the end. You fight the bad guy. Spoiler alert, you win. It's over. Gears of War 2 was totally heavy-handed, and their attempt at story was really falling flat for me.
You know what? At least the twists in Gears of War 2, you didn't see them coming.
I personally think that that's the least part of Gears 2's problem. The worst part was the Dom Maria storyline, and how Dom reacted was really silly. They tried to manufacture it, and I thought the whole thing just really didn't work.
Yeah, Dom and Maria was dumb, I'll concede that.
One of the great things about Resident Evil 5 is it's really replayable. You can play this game over and over again, unlock tons of weapons, many unlockables. You've got the Mercenaries mode, which is a whole lot of fun. Gears of War 2, once you're done with the campaign, if you bought this game right at launch, that's it.
No,
that's all
it was broken. Cry.
Totally busted.
All right, yeah, it might have been busted at launch, but I have one thing to say to you: Horde mode. That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Horde mode.
The answer to Horde mode is Mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 2.
It's
Resident Evil 5,
nowhere
and it's
near
great.
as fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, how long can you play Mercenaries mode for?
A million years.
A million years.
Yep.
In one sitting. You can play one level for a million years.
I might have to come take some bathroom breaks.
Horde mode you can play for hours on end until there's 50 waves for every level. Every level. How many levels are there in Gears 2 now? There's 12, 14? I don't even know.
Horde is a cool mode, and it does have a lot of replayability to it. But I would argue that Resident Evil 5's campaign mode is far more replayable than Gears of War 2's campaign mode, making it probably about a wash because Gears of War 2's multiplayer still isn't working quite like the community would like it to.
Gears of War 2 is an action game all the way through. It starts as an action game, finishes as an action game. It's not trying to be a survival horror game with action elements or an action game with survival horror elements like Resident Evil 5. The multiplayer is great, the storyline's good, not great, and the gameplay is addictive as ever.
See, Resident Evil 5 is an action game start to finish, and Capcom came out of nowhere with this survival horror franchise, made it action, and beat Epic at their own game. The game's prettier than Gears of War 2, it's more replayable, and it's a heck of a lot more fun.
Tank controls.
Multiplayer's broken.
Agree to disagree.